So welcome back to DIY Willy, and today, well, we're in the Silverado. One of the things with having so many cars in the fleet, I do have 6. One of the issues with having so many cars in the fleet is one of them is usually breaking. You know, there's always something to do to one of them. And today it's the Silverado's turn. I got diagnosed with a broken motor mount on the left side, and kind of knew something was going on. We could hear a clunk sound when we take off from a start. Under acceleration, you would get a little clunk, clunk. So crawled around underneath there. I thought first it was in the rear end, but it wasn't. It was the motor mount, and I've got new motor mounts, and I know it's only one, but I'm gonna go ahead and change the 2 motor mounts and the 1 transmission mount. That way I know everything is new and I have an opportunity to start over. With 1 motor mount being broken, you know, it stresses the other 2 out a little bit, and I don't want that to be a problem. It's not a difficult thing to do, but it is time consuming and hard to reach. You know, 3 of my vehicles are tall and I'm kind of short, and I've got to reach over engine compartment to get to those bolts, and well, it becomes a problem. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to get underneath there and change out those motor mounts. So I bought all new ones from the Chevy dealer, or I should say the Chevy Stealer, because man, they're expensive. I can buy them cheaper elsewhere, but I went with the original equipment, you know, General Motors parts. And nothing wrong with that, but man, they get you. And they wanted $980 to change 1. And $980, that's a little too much. I don't want to pay that. So I think I paid $300 for the 3 of them, and save myself a little money. I am DIY Willy. I do everything myself, and I'll be changing these motor mounts today. Might go into tomorrow, I don't know, because I do have a day job. You know, this is Saturday, but I do work 7 days a week usually, and I only have a few hours every day to work on my projects, including the mini bike and the various cars and whatever I do. So that's why things get broke up into parts sometimes. I record every little bit, and I need a video for each week. So anyway, with that said, let's take a look at the new parts, and they should be the same on both sides. Shouldn't be a difference. I would like to use the old ones once I get them out to make some similar to like off-road mounts. I built some for the Samurai, and they're never gonna break. So I could do that with these too. I can make a little jig in the shape of the motor mount, and yeah, I can make my own motor mounts. That way, when this one, I know it's gonna fail. I think it's a common problem with these trucks. When this motor mount fails again, I'll have those more durable, heavy-duty mounts ready to go in. So that'll be another video. Obviously, this video is just going to be about changing the motor mounts. And well, let's take a look at those parts. Yep, here is the bill for the parts. It was $312 just for the mounts. Like I said, I got the 3 of them, the 2 engine mounts and the 1 transmission mount. So let's take a look inside here. See what we got. This smaller box, this is the transmission mount. Let's see, how do we open this thing? Let's see here. So that's the new transmission mount. That looks simple enough, right? Oh, look at that. Made in China. Just like everything else. And this is a General Motors part too. Made in China. Should have saved me some money and bought the ones off Amazon. Okay, anyway, let's get to the engine mount. Similar situation, I guess. Box opens the same. And we got this monster. This comes with the heat shield, ready to go in. Yeah. Okay, let's see. There's a part number that I had to buy. And I got 2 of these. They're the same on both sides. It doesn't say made in China, but I'm sure if you were looking at country of origin, you would find it on here somewhere. So I've got to get this out. You've got to take these 3 top bolts out on the frame. We'll get to that in a minute. And then inside it's got 4 bolts on the inside. Like, these bolts go to the engine block. I don't know if you can see that. These bolts go to the engine block. There we go. That's a better shot right there. And those go to the frame. And the heat shield goes, you know, it sits in the car like this on the driver's side, like this. Engine here, frame here. And this is the failure point right inside here where it gets going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and I'm going to template the passenger side mount, the original one, and come up with a jig so I can get the right angles, and then make my own motor mount if I can. I don't think it'll be that difficult. I'll give it a shot once I get the old ones out. That'll be for another video, for another day, because, you know, I should be good for another few years with this motor mount. It shouldn't break. So yeah, with that said, I guess we're gonna tackle the install, and we'll get you set up out there and figure out what we gotta do. Okay, so we'll get out here to the truck. Got my handy stool here because this truck is tall. I mean, if you look at me, it's pretty high. So let's get the hood open. And you can see, just like my other cars, the engine compartment's pretty dirty. So I promise the next time you see the engine compartment, it'll be clean and detailed. You know, I shouldn't let it get this dirty. But what we're gonna tackle first is right down there. You can see the motor mount. Now that you know what it looks like, you can kind of see the heat shield right there, and then it's got the 1, 2, and 3 bolts down inside. Now we'll get those done, get those bolts out, and then we can jack the engine up, pull the motor mount out, and put the new motor mount and let it down and put all the bolts back in. Theoretically, it should be easy. So yeah, let's get going. I already got one of the bolts out. It's right here. Believe me, that was a monster to get out. That's the very back one on the motor mount. That is a monster to get out. I want to say more interesting words, but I'll try to refrain from doing that. I had to get quite aggressive to get it out, and now I believe the other 2 should come out easily. We'll give them a shot. So what I've got here is a 15mm socket on a swivel. Oh, I bumped the camera. On a swivel, and get it on there. There we go. And they're long threaded bolts. Look at that. I keep bumping the camera. I need more like 2 more swivels and 2 more extensions to get down in there where I really can work it. Well, you can see it's out, and let me tell you, that is one hell of a job to do that. I can understand why this dealership charges $980 to put that in. That's a bear. But yeah, it's out. Here it is. Here it is. And you can see that right there. Let me see if I can get some light. You can see that right here is definitely broken. The motor mount is toast. And I used a combination of tools to get it. You can see my jack up underneath the truck. And this. Now this was the best tool for the job. Very flexible. can put it in many positions. And telling you, I picked that up at Harbor Freight yesterday, just particularly for this, because I knew that it was going to be tough. I picked up a new 15mm ratchet with the or a wrench, excuse me, wrench with the ratcheting end, but I did not need it. I just used this tool, and this tool got the bolts out that are in the engine block. They're 15mm, just like the top. And yeah, it's a challenge. Just getting that stupid thing out of there. I'm taking it towards the back side of the engine where the exhaust is to get it out. It was a monster. So now I equally have the fun of trying to put it back in. The new one is, that is. And we'll see how we can do that. Put those other 4 bolts in the block and then set it down and put the 3 bolts into the frame. Oh, let me show you the where the floor jack is. Maybe that'll help somebody in the future. So I brought my 3-ton floor jack under here. Had to take the handle extension off, and I put a block of wood and I went it right up on the back of the oil pan. See that? I figured that would be the strongest place to put it with all the bends and the forms that that oil pan has right there. That would be the best spot to put it. And I just jacked it up until the motor mount had clearance to come out. The motor mount has a little pin on the bottom, and that little pin has to come out of its home. Once it comes out of its home, all you gotta do is wiggle, 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 wiggle until that motor mount comes out. All right. So here's the look again. Once again at the old motor mount. And you can clearly see where it's broken. That's the tears in the rubber. See if I can get that to open up a little bit. Yeah. And then here's the new one, the good one, with no tears, that we're going to put back in. There's the pin I was talking about. That pin goes into the frame to align it, and just got to have enough room for that to slide out of the hole. Now the challenge is going to be getting the new one in. It is a challenge. Okay, sorry I can't film much while I'm for that install. That's why I'm saying it's not a how-to at all one. It's just showing you the pain I'm going through to change the motor mount. All right, let me get it back in there. All right, so looking up at it, I've got the motor mount in. I've got the 4 bolts that go in there. Let me tell you, that is not easy, but it can be done, obviously. So you can see I still have the engine jacked up, and I could not have done this without this socket or this ratchet. I'll put it on here and you can kind of see. I could not have done this without this ratchet that flexes the handle. See how it's in there? Now I picked that ratchet up at Harbor Freight. I think it was like $12 or something, you know. I used that 20% coupon and I got it. And man, it just worked perfectly up here. I mean, there's nothing else that would have fit the same, as you can see. So yeah, it's in. I'm gonna go ahead and let the engine down, and go ahead and let the engine down, and then go up and do the bolts on the top. Okay, taking a look inside again. As you can see, I've got the bolts back in. There we go, there's a good shot. I've got the 3 bolts back in from the top, and I'm just gonna go ahead and tighten those down. Again, these are kind of hard to get into, even with the swivels. So I'll try to tighten them down, and then I'll show when it's done. All right, here we go. Day 2 of motor mount replacement. Got to get to the passenger side or the right side mount today, and hopefully if I finish that up, I'll hit the transmission mount. The left side was a challenge yesterday, getting the bolts out. They use a lot of thread lock on it, and they don't come out easy. So also the left side is hard because of the steering shaft is right there, so your angles on where you can put your extensions are limited on how you can do it. I'm going to do the passenger side. It's just got some hoses in the way. I have the 15mm socket, a swivel, and one long and two short extensions, and I've got my ratchet and a breaker bar. Let's make this happen. Okay, here we go. Had to take a few things out. I don't know if I needed to take all of it out, but I took it out. I didn't read any instruction manuals how to do this. I didn't find anything online directly what I was interested in, and I didn't watch any other videos. So I'm doing this purely by taking things out to make it easier for me. So as I said, I took a few things out. I took the battery and the battery tray out. I took the battery support, relocated the overflow bottle and the air box. Also, I could get to those 3 bolts down there. Those 3 bolts down there on the motor mount. So here's what I took off. Took off the starter. There's all my bolts I've used to take out, or there's all my bolts I took out. Battery, battery tray, battery supports, battery tray, air box. Now I should be able to get underneath there, jack the motor up, and remove the 4 bolts into the engine block to hold the motor mount, and hopefully slide the motor mount back. And then it all goes back together in the reverse order. 4 bolts to the block, lower the block, 3 bolts to the frame, and put all the interferences that I removed back in. All right, let me get going. I gotta say, there's that stupid motor mount. That's a real pain in the ass to get out. I wound up taking the inner fender out and bringing it out through this area right here. Now I gotta work at getting the other one back inside. So I have the old motor mount out. It is not an easy job. I would say on a difficulty level from 1 to 10, 1 being the easiest, 10 being the hardest, this is about a 9.5. So this one is showing signs of cracks inside. It wasn't broken yet, but I'm glad I changed it. Now to get it off, or to get it out and back in, it's best to take this top flange off. These 2 bolts will unbolt it. You can take the flange off and the heat shield off, and it fits inside the frame, and you can reassemble it inside and save a little time putting it back together. Like I pointed out earlier, I took the inner fender out. I took the starter off, even though it's back installed now. There's the new motor mount inside. And I gotta say too that it was a lot easier to bolt it in with this inner fender off. So yeah, that's definitely the best way to go. And it came out this way. You can see the heat shield took a little bit of battle scars, but it'll survive. So both the motor mounts are in. So now let's get to the transmission mount. Gotta put all this back together, then we'll get to the transmission mount. Well, that was a successful project. Changing those motor mounts is not an easy task, and if you're not a really mechanically inclined person or have a lot of patience, I wouldn't even try it. I would just have somebody do it for you and empty your wallet, you know, because that's basically what's going to happen. I do recommend using the original General Motors parts, because with all the work that goes into putting those parts in, you don't want to cheap out on that. You want something you know is going to be a good quality part and comes from the manufacturer. It is a job, and it's not something you want to have to redo, you know, a few months down the road. So yeah, definitely spend the money and get the good parts, and all will be well. So I know I said I was going to do the transmission mount. After getting down there, you know, you got to take the transmission cross member, and the bolts are wrong from the factory. Well, I'm assuming they're wrong. They didn't work to take it out. So if you look right here on the driver's side, these 2 bolts right here, they're pointed towards the back of the truck, and there's lots of room to get them out right here. No problem, right? If you look over here On the passenger side, those bolts are pointing towards the front of the truck, and if you look right here, when you try to take them out, they hit the catalytic converter and don't allow them to come out. So I believe there's a little X right there on the frame. I don't know if it shows, but I believe that that those bolts were put in wrong at the factory, and that X marked that they should have been changed. So what I would have to do is order new bolts, 2 new bolts for that side, and then bring them out halfway, leaving the nut still on this side, cut them, and then pulling them out this way, so that the head goes off and pull them out that way. That way I could drop the cross member, change the transmission mount, put the cross member back up, and then put the new bolts in from the forward side going back like these. Correct way, I believe, is the correct way. So we'll have to tackle the transmission mount another day once I have those bolts and everything's right. All right. Oh, I see a dent right here. Let's see, it's something good. I wonder what it was. Well, it's done. It's another successful project for DIY Willy. I hope you enjoyed it. It didn't go into too much detail of getting the motor mounts out, but I kind of talked about the process. You know, some of the things, the hardware you have to move, and taking the motor mount apart and moving it to the back on the driver's side and taking it out through the frame on the passenger side. I didn't really read anything up on it. I just went at it. I just did it. And I know now that I would have started originally taking on the passenger side. I would have definitely taken the inner fender out right away. Saved me some time. And the battery goes out, and battery tray you take out. The starter, afterwards I saw some people saying that you didn't need to take the starter out, but you know what? I found out you do. If you take that motor mount out and you need a place to slide it, you need to take it to where the starter is, and it just doesn't fit there with the starter there. So you got to take the starter out, in my opinion. And I would also take the top flange off before removing the motor mount. But anyway, with that said, it was a good video. Everything works. The truck's happy again. It even feels better. It feels more solid. And well, give it a thumbs up. Give it a thumbs down. I don't care. Just show some activity on it. You know, throw me a little solid right there. Leave a comment. I love comments. I'm getting a lot of comments, good or bad. I don't care. I read them. I answer them, and I enjoy it. So hope you enjoyed the video. Hope there may be something in there that can help you. Again, it was just me working on my truck. That's like my other projects have. I have other cars that I have to work with. So, with that said, see you in the next. Bye. Okay, here's what I was talking about. Where you take the top flange off. I've already loosened these bolts. They're, those nuts, excuse me. I've already loosened those nuts. They're a 15 millimeter. They're lock nuts, so they do take a little bit of effort to get off. But if you take the top flange off and the heat shield off, this is a lot easier to deal with when you're putting it back inside. And then once you have it back inside the frame, you can put the heat shield back on, put the flange back on, and bolt it back together and tighten it up. I didn't really find any torque specifications on it, but I mean, just wrench it down, man. Just get it tight and it should be fine. It was a lot easier to put it back in that way. It was a lot easier to put it in that way. I'm sure it would be a lot easier to take it out that way. So I hope that helps somebody. Again, it won't hurt to take this off. These are lock nuts, so they do take a little bit of effort to get off. But once they're off, I mean, you're good. You're golden. All right.